Be me, Melissa, Director of Human Resources. Been working in HR for 8 years, finally in position where I can make real change. Wake up every morning knowing I'm fighting the good fight against systemic oppression. Arrive at office, immediately notice how many men are in leadership positions. This needs to change, and fast. Call emergency meeting with CEO Jonathan about restructuring performance evaluation protocols. Walk into his office with my 47-page proposal for equitable workplace transformation initiative. Jonathan, we need to talk about how our current merit-based system is perpetuating inequality. He looks confused, starts flipping through my document. The problem is that traditional performance metrics are designed by men, for men. They inherently favor masculine communication styles and leadership approaches. Proceed to explain how expecting employees to meet deadlines is actually rooted in patriarchal time constructs. When we say someone is results-oriented, we're really just codifying male aggression patterns. Jonathan keeps trying to interrupt, but I'm on a roll. What I'm proposing is a complete overhaul where we prioritize representation and lived experiences. Instead of promoting based on arbitrary metrics, we focus on creating authentic diversity. Slide the quota breakdown across his desk. These targets aren't quotas, they're equity goals that acknowledge historical injustices. Jonathan looks concerned. Melissa, I appreciate your passion for inclusion, but we can't ignore performance entirely. Typical male response, trying to mansplain business to me. Jonathan, what you're not understanding is that performance itself is a gendered concept. When women don't advance, it's not because they're less capable, it's because the system doesn't value their contributions. Spend next 2 hours breaking down unconscious bias in promotion processes. Eventually wear him down until he agrees to pilot program. Victory tastes sweet. Next day, immediately implement new holistic evaluation framework. No more sales numbers, project completions, or technical assessments. Instead, we evaluate collaborative spirit, inclusive communication, and cultural awareness. Start reviewing all current employees through equity lens. Notice Dylan from engineering has been getting promoted too quickly, probably because he looks the part to male leadership. Dig through his HR file looking for anything problematic. Find complaint from 3 months ago where female intern said he interrupted her in meeting. Also note that he uses direct communication style that could make others feel marginalized. Schedule disciplinary meeting. Dylan, we need to discuss some concerning patterns in your workplace behavior. Show him the interruption complaint. I don't remember interrupting anyone. We were brainstorming solutions to the database issue. The impact matters more than your intent, Dylan. Your communication style is creating an environment where marginalized voices feel silenced. He tries to defend himself, but that just proves the point. This defensive reaction is exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to need you to attend additional sensitivity workshops. Also, implement formal mentorship program, pairing him with Sandra from marketing. Sandra will help you develop more inclusive collaboration techniques. Dylan looks frustrated but agrees. Meanwhile, promote Jennifer from junior developer to team lead. She's been struggling with coding challenges but shows excellent emotional intelligence. When Robert from her team questions the decision, immediately flag him for bias training. Robert, I'm concerned about your reaction to Jennifer's promotion. Can you reflect on why you might be questioning a woman's technical abilities? I'm not questioning her abilities because she's a woman. I'm questioning them because her code doesn't compile. Classic example of how men weaponize objectivity to mask discrimination. Technical skills can be developed, but inclusive leadership is more valuable. Implement mandatory Friday workshops called Deconstructing Workplace Hierarchies. Every employee must attend weekly 3-hour sessions. Hire a consultant named Brianna who specializes in liberation pedagogy. Sessions cover topics like the violence of punctuality and problematizing productivity culture. Employees required to share their privilege levels and commit to weekly allyship actions. Some people seem resistant, but change is always uncomfortable. Receive anonymous feedback that sessions are disruptive to actual work, obviously written by someone threatened by progress. Increase sessions to twice weekly. Also establish microaggression reporting portal where employees can flag problematic behavior. Reports start flooding in. Someone reported David for saying "you guys" in team meeting. Angela reported that Thomas looked skeptical during her presentation. Patricia flagged Michael for tone policing when he asked her to lower her voice during phone call. Each incident requires formal investigation and corrective action plan. Start calling individual employees into my office. David, referring to mixed gender groups as guys, erases feminine presence in the space. It might seem innocent, but language shapes reality. Angela, can you help me understand what happened with Thomas's facial expressions? He just seemed doubtful of my ideas, like he wasn't taking me seriously. That's exactly the kind of subtle dismissal that undermines women's authority. Schedule Thomas for intensive bias interruption workshop. Meanwhile, protect the women who are clearly being targeted. When complaints come in about Maria's frequent absences, shut them down immediately. Maria is dealing with emotional labor that her male colleagues don't face. The stress of being one of few women in tech takes a psychological toll. Her project deadlines can be flexible while she processes this trauma. Similarly, when Christine's accounting errors are flagged, reframe the issue. Mathematical precision is often used to police women's contributions. Christine brings intuitive problem solving that can't be quantified. Implement restorative justice circles instead of traditional disciplinary actions for women. By contrast, Kevin from it gets written up for technological gatekeeping. Apparently, he told someone they needed admin passwords to install software. Kevin, requiring permissions reinforces hierarchical power structures. You could have explained the process more collaboratively. Final straw comes when he rolls his eyes during our conversation. This eye-rolling behavior demonstrates contempt for the educational process. I'm recommending immediate termination for hostile workplace conduct. Kevin protests that he was just frustrated, but impact matters more than intent. Security escorts him out while I document the incident as aggressive resistance to equity initiatives. Establish brave space guidelines for all team interactions. No devil's advocacy, no requesting sources for emotional statements, no well-actually responses. Men required to speak maximum 30% of time in mixed-gender meetings. Implement progressive stack, where marginalized identities speak first. Also, mandate acknowledgement rituals at start of each meeting. Everyone must recognize whose traditional land we're occupying and acknowledge their own privilege. Productivity starts declining, but that's expected during transformation periods. Receive pushback from some employees about excessive process. Clearly, they're uncomfortable with power structures being challenged. Schedule all-hands meeting to address resistance patterns. Change is always difficult when you're accustomed to unexamined privilege. Some of you are experiencing what researchers call equality feels like oppression. When you've been centered your whole life, equality feels like marginalization. Explain that decreased productivity is actually a sign of successful culture shift. We're prioritizing human dignity over capitalist efficiency metrics. Notice several men exchange glances. Typical silent communication patterns used to maintain dominance. After meeting, investigate whether this constitutes coordinated resistance. Meanwhile, celebrate successes with protected employees. Jennifer's team lead position is inspiring other women despite coding challenges. Maria's authenticity is transforming accounting department culture. Christine's innovative approaches are revolutionizing financial reporting. Establish monthly sisterhood circles for women employees. Safe space to process microaggressions and strategize resistance. Invite women to share experiences of male colleagues' problematic behavior. Document everything for pattern analysis. Start seeing clear evidence of systematic discrimination. Richard apparently stares too long during presentations. Craig's questions about budget allocations feel interrogational. Samuel's technical corrections create hostile intellectual environment. Each pattern represents deeper patriarchal conditioning. Implement interruption tracking sheets for all meetings. Research shows men interrupt women 87% more frequently. Appoint communication equity monitors to enforce balanced participation. Also, establish emotional labor recognition program. Women receive bonus points for remembering birthdays, organizing team events, and maintaining office morale. These invisible contributions must be formally valued. Notice companies' quarterly results showing decreased client satisfaction. Obviously, clients are struggling to adapt to our more equitable practices, probably uncomfortable with being challenged to examine their biases. Jonathan calls me into his office looking stressed. Melissa, we're getting concerning feedback from both clients and employees. People are saying the workplace feels tense and unproductive. Typical backlash when power structures are disrupted. Jonathan, transformation is never comfortable for those who benefited from the previous system. What you're seeing is evidence that we're making real progress. Explain that discomfort indicates successful dismantling of oppressive norms. Our female employees report feeling more empowered than ever. The men's resistance proves how necessary this work was. Jonathan mentions declining performance metrics. Metrics themselves are tools of control, Jonathan. When we obsess over productivity, we devalue human dignity. He brings up client complaints about missed deadlines. Punctuality is a social construct used to police marginalized communities. Maybe our clients need to examine their own time-based assumptions. Meeting ends with him looking overwhelmed, clearly struggling to process how deeply programmed he is. Continue expanding equity initiatives. Establish privilege tax, where men contribute extra unpaid hours to mentoring programs. Mandate apology protocols for any language that excludes or dismisses. Create reflection journals where employees document daily bias recognition. Implement allyship accountability partners who monitor each other's problematic patterns. Institute healing circles after any workplace conflict. Traditional conflict resolution reinforces combative masculine approaches. Instead, we focus on emotional processing and community repair. Some employees request transfers to other departments, obviously overwhelmed by being asked to examine their conditioning. Replace departed employees with candidates who demonstrate clear commitment to justice. Prioritize lived experience over technical qualifications. Hire Destiny as senior developer despite limited coding background. Her perspective as multiply marginalized will transform team culture. Bring in Fatima as project manager, though she's never managed projects. Her community organizing experience translates perfectly. Recruit Zoe as financial analyst because her sociology background provides valuable lens. Watch old guard employees struggle to adapt to new leadership. Their discomfort confirms how exclusive previous environment was. Establish re-education intensive for employees showing resistance patterns. Weekend workshop series covering privilege theory, intersectionality, and microaggression awareness. Mandatory attendance for anyone flagged through bias reporting system. Richard, Craig, Samuel, and several others enrolled immediately. During one session, Richard questions statistical methodology of wage gap research. Immediately halt discussion to address his intellectual intimidation tactics. Richard, demanding sources and citations is a form of epistemic violence. You're using academic gatekeeping to silence women's lived experiences. Require him to attend additional workshop on unlearning analytical supremacy. Meanwhile, notice company starting to lose major clients. Apparently, they're concerned about project delivery timelines. Typical capitalist pressure tactics when organizations prioritize humanity over profit. Jonathan calls emergency leadership meeting, brings up declining revenue, employee turnover, and client satisfaction. Melissa, I need to understand what's happening to our company culture. We used to be known for innovation and collaboration. Now I'm hearing words like hostile and divisive. Explain that transformation always appears chaotic to those invested in status quo. What looks like division is actually authentic truth-telling. For the first time, marginalized employees feel safe expressing their experiences. Jonathan mentions that several top performers have quit. Those weren't our top performers, Jonathan. They were people who thrived in biased system. Real talent was being suppressed by masculine competition culture. He asks about productivity metrics. Metrics can't capture the emotional healing happening in our workplace. Women report feeling seen and valued in ways they never experienced before. Explain that short-term disruption is necessary for long-term justice. Jonathan looks exhausted, rubs his temples. I just got off call with board members. They're asking serious questions about company direction. Typical board. Probably all men worried about their golf club conversations. Jonathan, This is exactly the kind of pressure that maintains oppressive systems. Are you going to cave to patriarchal demands or stand up for what's right? He says he needs time to think, obviously struggling between his principles and internalized conditioning. Continue implementing advanced equity measures. Establish reparations fund, where profits are redistributed to marginalized employees. Create trauma-informed scheduling, allowing flexible deadlines for emotional processing. Mandate authenticity protocols, where everyone shares personal struggles at team meetings. Institute power mapping exercises to visualize and redistribute workplace influence. Launch decolonization initiative, examining how Western business practices exclude indigenous wisdom. Replace traditional performance reviews with journey sharing circles. Employees describe their emotional growth rather than completing arbitrary tasks. Implement gratitude reciprocity, where colleagues acknowledge each other's invisible labor. Establish conflict transformation rituals using indigenous conflict resolution practices. Results are profound. Women employees report feeling liberated from impossible standards. Men are beginning to recognize their unconscious bias patterns. Workplace conversations focus on humanity rather than profit maximization. Notice some employees still struggling with adaptation. Daniel apparently made dismissive face when Destiny explained her coding approach. Immediately, flag for intensive bias interruption. Dylan reported asking too many technical questions during Fatima's project presentation, clearly trying to undermine her authority through intellectual intimidation. Schedule him for advanced privilege recognition workshop. Also investigate whether these patterns represent coordinated resistance. Discover that Robert, Thomas, Samuel, Craig, Richard, and Dylan have been eating lunch together. Suspicious timing suggests possible conspiracy to maintain Wawel dominance. Document evidence and prepare disciplinary action. Meanwhile, continue supporting women through transformation process. Jennifer's team lead role is inspiring despite ongoing coding challenges. Provide her with additional training resources and emotional support. Maria's accounting work shows creative approaches even if numbers don't always add up. Mathematics itself reflects masculine linear thinking patterns. Christine's financial reports include important contextual information. Traditional accounting ignores social and emotional factors. Destiny's code might not compile perfectly, but brings valuable perspective to development process. Fatima's project management style prioritizes relationships over arbitrary deadlines. Zoe's financial analysis incorporates broader social justice considerations. Their authenticity is transforming our workplace culture. Receive concerning news that company is being acquired by larger corporation, immediately worried about new management's commitment to equity. Larger companies often prioritize profit over human dignity. Schedule emergency meeting with Jonathan. We need to ensure that any transition protects our progress. The women employees are finally feeling safe and empowered. We can't let corporate interests undo this transformation. Jonathan looks uncomfortable, avoids eye contact. Melissa, the acquisition is already finalized. New management team starts Monday. Feel sudden panic about everything we've built. Jonathan, did you explain our equity initiatives to them? Do they understand how much healing has happened here? He mentions they'll be reviewing all policies. Ominous language suggesting they might not value our progress. We need to prepare documentation showing success of our programs. The women's empowerment, the consciousness raising, the bias interruption. Spend weekend compiling evidence of transformation. Testimonials from protected employees about feeling valued. Documentation of men's participation in re-education programs. Evidence of increased authentic communication and emotional healing. Monday morning, meet with new management team, led by someone named Alexandra, who apparently has operations experience. Immediately suspicious when she uses corporate buzzwords like efficiency and productivity. Red flags everywhere. Alexandra, I'd like to walk you through our equity transformation initiatives. Begin presentation about dismantling patriarchal workplace structures. She interrupts after 5 minutes. Melissa, I've reviewed the quarterly reports and client feedback. There are serious concerns about company performance and culture. Typical corporate response ignoring human dignity. What you're seeing as performance issues are actually signs of successful culture change. We've prioritized justice over profit, healing over productivity. Explain that decreased metrics reflect employees being liberated from oppressive expectations. Alexandra takes notes with skeptical expression. I'll need complete documentation of all policy changes and disciplinary actions. Also want to meet with random sample of employees this week, concerning requests suggesting she doesn't trust our leadership. Alexandra, the women employees here have been through significant healing process. Random interviews might re-traumatize them by questioning their experiences. She insists on conducting her own assessment. Spend rest of week anxiously waiting for results. Notice employees seem nervous about transition. Reassure women that new management will recognize value of our work. Change is always scary, but truth has a way of revealing itself. Alexandra will see how much healing and empowerment has happened. Friday afternoon, get called to Alexandra's office. Walk in feeling confident about our achievements. She's sitting behind desk with multiple folders open. Melissa, I've completed my review of your policies and initiatives. Wait for praise about innovative approaches to workplace justice. I've also conducted confidential interviews with staff members. The feedback has been illuminating. Sense something wrong in her tone. Alexandra, I hope you understand how transformative this work has been. The women employees finally feel seen and valued. She opens one of the folders. Actually, that's not what I'm hearing. Feels sudden confusion. Several female employees described feeling patronized and diminished by your policies. Impossible. We've been protecting and empowering them. They used words like tokenistic and condescending. Clearly, she's misunderstanding their responses. Alexandra, internalized oppression makes women doubt their own liberation. They might not recognize empowerment because they're so used to marginalization. She flips through more pages. Lisa from engineering said being assigned a mentor felt insulting. She has a master's degree and 5 years experience. Obviously, Lisa doesn't understand how bias affects technical fields. Patricia mentioned that having her emotional reactions protected made her feel infantilized. Patricia clearly needs more support processing her trauma, and Jennifer requested to step down from team lead position. She said being promoted without adequate qualifications was embarrassing. Jennifer must be overwhelmed by imposter syndrome. Alexandra, what you're not understanding is how deeply internalized misogyny affects women's self-perception. They've been conditioned to doubt their worth and capabilities. She closes the folder and looks directly at me. Melissa, I'm also concerned about the male employees who were terminated. Kevin's dismissal appears to be retaliation for questioning policy. Dylan was fired for asking technical questions. Explain that these were clear patterns of resistance and intimidation. Their behavior was undermining the healing environment we created. Alexandra opens another folder. I've reviewed the incident reports and disciplinary documentation. The infractions appear minor and the responses disproportionate. She doesn't understand how microaggressions compound into systematic oppression. Additionally, several clients have expressed concerns about project quality and deadlines. We've lost 3 major contracts due to performance issues. Clients obviously uncomfortable with being challenged to examine their biases. Alexandra, transformation is never comfortable for those invested in status quo. We prioritized human dignity over capitalist metrics. She leans back in chair. Melissa, I appreciate your passion for equality, but these policies have created a hostile work environment and damaged company performance. Feel sudden rage at her complete misunderstanding. A hostile work environment? We created the first truly safe space these women ever experienced. We dismantled oppressive structures and centered marginalized voices. Alexandra remains calm. I'm going to need you to reverse all policy changes immediately. Return to merit-based evaluations and standard disciplinary procedures. Absolutely not happening. Alexandra, I won't be part of re-traumatizing these employees. We've made too much progress to go backwards now. She sighs deeply. In that case, I'm terminating your employment effective immediately. Feel like the world is spinning. You can't fire me for protecting marginalized employees. This is clear retaliation for challenging patriarchal systems. She hands me termination paperwork. Your employment is at a will, and this decision is final. Security will escort you to collect your belongings. Cannot believe this is happening. This is exactly what systematic oppression looks like. You're silencing a woman for speaking truth about gender discrimination. Tears start flowing as reality hits. Everything we built is being destroyed. Those women needed protection. They needed someone to advocate for them. You're sending them back into a hostile masculine environment. Alexandra calls security while I'm sobbing. This is injustice. This is how the patriarchy maintains power. You're punishing me for liberating marginalized voices. Security arrives as I'm crying and shouting. They finally felt safe. They finally felt valued. You're destroying years of healing and consciousness raising, being escorted through office while employees stare. Some of the women I protected look away uncomfortably. Don't you see what's happening? Don't you see how you're being silenced again? Fight back. Don't let them erase your empowerment. Reach parking lot still sobbing about injustice. This is exactly how systematic discrimination works. They wait until you've built something beautiful, then destroy it. Monday morning, received text from former colleague Jessica. Hey, wanted you to know that Alexandra met with all of us. She's reversing the policy changes and returning to normal procedures. Honestly, most of the women are relieved, feel completely betrayed. Text back asking why they would celebrate going backwards. We felt like you saw us as helpless victims instead of capable professionals. The constant protection made us feel incompetent. Plus, those mandatory sessions were exhausting and condescending. Cannot process this response. Spend days replaying everything, trying to understand what went wrong. Obviously, they're experiencing trauma bonding with their oppressors. Internalized misogyny runs deeper than I realized. They need more time to understand their own liberation. Apply for new HR positions, but keep getting rejected. Potential employers seem concerned about culture fit and collaboration style. Typical code words for bias against transformational leadership. Eventually realize I need to find organization that truly values justice. Apply to nonprofits and advocacy groups. During interviews, explain how I successfully challenged oppressive workplace structures. Describe implementing bias interruption and consciousness-raising programs. Outline success in protecting marginalized employees from systematic discrimination. Somehow these organizations also seem hesitant. Must be infiltrated by liberal feminists who don't understand radical change. Months later, still unemployed and processing the trauma. Realized that entire experience confirmed everything about patriarchal resistance. They allowed me to build something beautiful, then destroyed it the moment they felt threatened. Classic pattern of systematic oppression. The women's rejection of their own liberation shows how deeply conditioned they are. Eventually, they'll understand what we accomplished. Eventually, they'll recognize that someone fought for their dignity, still believe transformation is possible, still know that someone needs to challenge these structures. Next opportunity will be more strategic about protecting the progress. System won't silence me forever.